Live Aid from London with BBC TV and Radio 1.
Live Aid Concert 1985 is brought to you with the support of the New Zealand Post Office. Ladies and gentlemen, Television New Zealand presents the world's largest ever rock concert, brought to you live on a worldwide satellite link, featuring the world's top artists who are donating their time and talent to give hope to the people of Africa. Ladies and gentlemen, the Live Aid Concert.
Live from JFK Stadium in Philadelphia, USA. And live from Wembley Stadium in London, England. The Live Aid Concert.
It's 7:30 p.m. in London, 2:30 p.m. in Philadelphia, 1:30 p.m. in Chicago, and around the world. It's time for Fireside Chats with Angel. On today's Fireside Chat, we're going to take a dive and a trip back to 1985. That was 40 years ago. Let's just take that in, 40 years ago.
40 years. Yep.
And we're going to talk about Live Aid, a global concert. For those who've never weren't around, took place on July 13th, 1985, which just happened last Sunday. And it was a charity concert, it was just the global village was open to raise money for famine relief in Ethiopia. And it consisted of simultaneous concerts at Wembley in London, and then followed by JFK Stadium in Philadelphia, organized by Bob Geldof Mid-Jour, featured over 70 prominent artists and bands, and was watched by an estimated 1.5 billion people worldwide. On top of that, according to Billy Connolly, when he was introducing Elton John, said that 95% of the television sets were tuned in to Live Aid. So, and it raised over $100 million, probably more at this point. So, but joining me to talk about Live Aid is an old dear friend of mine and my former neighbor.
Yep.
Ladies and gentlemen, Sarah Palmer.
Hello. 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 Thank you. Angel gave me some good questions to think about for talking about Live Aid. And I will recommend, Phil Collins has a great memoir called Not Dead Yet. And he does talk about Live Aid and the Concord and kind of some of that logistics, but he makes a good point at the beginning of his memoir that these are snapshot memories. So while I would not swear to all of these on a stand under oath, this is how I remember, kind of those events unfolding. But Angel asked, how old were you when, and where were you living when Live Aid happened? And instead of just jumping into Saturday, July 13th, 1985, for me, you really have to go back to August 1st, 1981, which is when MTV first went on the air.
Ladies and gentlemen, rock and roll.
So I love music. I have always loved music. I don't know where that comes from because my mother right now is not listening to music. My dad listened to music a little bit when he was alive, kind of specific bands. He really liked the Communards for some reason. So I don't,
what was her hit?
Was that Don't Leave Me This Way, or was that Bronski Beat, or Small Town Boy maybe, or he liked dance music. He liked things that had a good beat.
Okay.
But I just remember, even before MTV coming out, a lot of radio listening, a lot of like holding a recorder up to the speaker to try to record a song, that sort of thing. And So when MTV goes on the air in August 1st, 1981, I'm 12 years old. And we're living in a suburb outside Atlanta, Georgia. My father has gotten a job working for Hardee's. This is when the the southern part of the United States is just exploding. Like my classroom is so big, I'm going to school in a trailer. I'm going split schedules. By the time I graduate, there's 700 kids in my graduating class. Like it was just a wild expanse of time. And we lived in a subdivision that had 380 homes. I looked it up today. And they had a newsletter that they would put in people's mailbox, and you could babysit if you took a class at a local hospital, and they would advertise your babysitting services. So we did not get cable right away. We were not early adopters. And my mother was always the one who would generally answer the phone. And I would not babysit for people unless they had cable, specifically to watch MTV. Yeah. And that was just the first question. My mom would say, like, are you available this Saturday? And I'd be like, do they have cable? And so I just loved MTV. I loved this idea of this video radio. I loved the DJs. Martha Quinn was one of my favorites. I loved the Saturday night concerts. She actually came to Atlanta for the Thompson twins, and they recorded that concert. Like, I just loved MTV.
This is it. Welcome to MTV Music Television, the world's first 24-hour stereo video music channel. Just moments ago, all of the VJs and the crew here at MTV collectively hit our executive producer, Sue Steinberg, over the head with a bottle of champagne, and behold, a new concept is born. The best of TV combined with the best of radio. Now, starting right now, you'll never look at music the same way again.
Alan Hunter. I will be with you right after Mark. We'll be covering the latest in music news coast to coast here on MTV Music Television.
I'm Martha Quinn. The music will continue non-stop on MTV Music Television, the newest component of your stereo system.
Well, all right, I'm J.J. Jackson, and I'll be sitting in with the latest video music performances the way they were meant to be. That's in stereo on MTV Music Television. You'll never look at music the same way again.
Hi, I'm Nina Blackwood, and I'll be with you after JJ right here on MTV, the world's first video music channel, all day, all night in stereo.
So I found out about it from watching MTV, just the hype around this. I loved Do They Know It's Christmas? Yeah. I just thought that was an amazing song. So that came out in 84 before the concert. And, I love that. Have it on album, actually have the album where they have kind of the talking that they do at the end of the presentation.
Oh, the B-side. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, in 1985, I'm 16 years old. So I am like prime audience.
Sure. Yeah. That's
you
were in the thick. So I'm going to ask myself that question. How old was I and where was I living, or where were I living? So I was 10 years old in 1985, living in Rogers Park with my family. I was also, like you, a huge music fan. And I got it from my parents. My dad is a big fan of rock music. So, got raised on the Beatles, the Stones, CCR, the Doors. And then my mom, loves music, but she's more into like easy listening, but also like Spanish crooners like Julio Iglesias and Jose Jose, and just classic Mexican, music. And then, growing up at the time in the 80s, all these songs that you hear nowadays at supermarkets and stuff, that stuff was happening new. So I was really into like Duran Duran. I was into like Spandau Ballet, like the UK, like the New Romantics were really interesting. But unlike you, I did not have cable. In fact, I think we talked about this, but in Chicago, city of Chicago refused to allow like cable companies to basically start scooping up customers. Something about I think it was they didn't want a monopoly. Which is funny coming from Chicago. That
By the end of the decade, cable TV as we know it had begun in many places. However, some major markets like LA and Chicago held out on allowing such a thing, citing a fear of monopolies. Or maybe it was just local politics.
Because then we ended up having, I mean, we had what, Chicago Cable that then got purchased by somebody that got purchased by somebody that got, and now I think it's Comcast. It's like,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
4 different things. Yeah.
Well, and back then it was we had something called On TV Spectrum. I don't know if that ever. Yeah,
Yeah.
so that was like kind of like, and I actually did see some concerts on there, like the well, talking about benefit shows. There was the concert for Campuchia, if you ever remember that. That
No.
was 79. Yeah, it was
Okay.
1979. So it was after Keith Moon passed, but the Who were there. Paul McCartney and Wings
Okay.
performed there, and then they had a night like a new wave night with like the Specials, the Clash. So I
Mhm.
was already kind of like familiar with like benefit shows and stuff like that. But yeah,
Yeah.
so we didn't have cable growing up, and I remember being really bummed. And actually, we did have a family that lived in Des Plaines.
Hmm.
They had cable,
Yeah.
and I would whenever we'd go spend the night there, I would stay up until yeah, pretty much till like 5 or 6 in the morning, just watching MTV.
Exactly. Because you could just consume, like, I think that this idea of kind of when you're watching something or how you're consuming media, like my dad own I only remember one time in my life with my father that he made a mistake. And when we got cable, he said to my brother and myself that we could only watch MTV an hour a day. But he
Ah,
did not specify that he meant a combined hour a day. And so my brother and I were like, well, that I have an hour and my brother has an hour. We're like, okay, well, that's 2 hours. And I still remember that to this day, that was like the one time my dad faltered in negotiations.
ah,
Um, but yeah, that's how important it was because I think before MTV, you had things like JBTV, you had things maybe at night that you could see music videos, but it wasn't this like 24/7
yeah.
because well, I don't know. Do you remember when the TV used to turn off?
Oh yeah. I mean, because
Yeah.
I would stay up super late, and then I would see yeah, like when the yeah the stations would
Shut off. Yeah.
shut
Like when I
off,
was
and
babysitting and that would happen, I'd be like, oh, okay. Um, so you had asked about kind of what let me see what the next question is. So the
oh,
next one,
so I was gonna say, so yeah, so you
yeah.
answered how did you hear about Live Aid and how we were able to watch videos. We had, let's see, a number. So we had the UHF stations,
Mhm.
MV60, which later became MV50, and it would be
Okay.
like an hour, kind of like your hour a day of,
Right. Fix.
and but it would be like yeah, it would be whatever music videos was happening on MTV, but also they would also have some really like off the wall stuff, a lot of reggae, a lot of like indie, almost like yeah, kind of college indie rock stuff that would get
Uh-huh.
slipped in there, which was kind of cool. And then
Yeah.
yeah, obviously like I was a huge fan of the UK bands, and then when of course Band Aid happened, that was just everywhere. And yeah, same here. I love the song. Um, Definitely not as cool as We Are the World, but
I
but
think
that
I think
yeah.
I think like you and I have talked about some of the challenges with Do They Know It's Christmas that when you look at it now through today's lens, there's no women, there's
Hmm.
really no people of color, but they're all Bob Geldof's friends and they were there for a good cause. And like Jody
Yeah.
Watley getting out of the car will forever be my fashion moment. Like I
Hmm.
just think that, and Bananarama showing up. So
Yeah.
it is interesting to see some of the artists that are so heavily involved in that and then they weren't at Live Aid.
Yeah. Which
So
I
yes,
definitely
I
want to
was
get in. Yeah.
I was super excited to see it. I think that um well, we'll talk a little bit later. We had kind of said like who understands the assignment. So I have some answers around that
Oh yeah,
uh,
yeah, yeah.
a little bit
Curious.
later. But yeah, so again, like how did I watch it? and again, this is where, my memory sort of comes in. So I am, and still am to a certain extent, but I was a huge Adam Ant fan. Like, I was not Duran Duran. You had the people at school that were like super into Duran Duran. Living in Atlanta, you had like some Violent Femmes fans, who were like super cool. I don't even know, like they were another sphere as far as music knowledge. But I loved Adam Ant, and I was just so excited to see him. I would stay and like try to tape his videos off MTV. And so the poor guy, I do remember seeing that he gets one song, right? He's after the Boomtown Rats, he gets Vive la Rock. Okay. But that's who I was really, really excited to see. So I don't think that I saw the start of it. I'm a later in life Paul Weller Jam Style Council fan. So I don't remember if I saw that live. I love watching the playback of it now. George Michael also has an interesting memoir, or actually autobiography, that just came out. He does not get along with Paul Weller and just kind of their relationship, but I think it's how fast they play the songs. So I was really, I was excited to see Adam Ant. And also Spandau Ballet. I still, I understand Ultravox to a certain extent, but they still seem a little cheesy to me. So they're kind of sandwiched in there. I'm looking at the lineup. But one thing that I thought was interesting is you said, what group or artist were you most impressed with? And I think looking back now, like being able to see all the footage, I love Hall & Oates. I've always liked them, even in the 80s, but I really like their performance. I like their connection to Philadelphia.
Yeah.
I was really impressed with that. I love Sade. I think that her performance at Live Aid is like a masterclass and cool. She's just so cool.
And I just watched, so I watched all 10 parts of the Live Aid YouTube presentation, which if you haven't checked it out, it is like definitely an upgrade to the DVD, because it's it kind of follows the same thing and includes like in chronological order all the performers. The Sade, which I hadn't listened to that whole set before, and he presented it complete, and it was it definitely brought the Quiet Storm to the to Wembley. And not to mention, she was the only like female of color at the Wembley show. So you watched it on cable. So you got to watch.
I watched it on cable. So the other thing that I should explain is that when we moved to Atlanta, not everything, most things in the South were really, really inexpensive because you were having these huge subdivisions being built. It's the early 80s. There's a lot of money. There's a lot of development in Atlanta. So we lived in a really big house. And we only had one TV. So even though we had this huge home, we had the family room, the TV. And so it was not like I could just park myself in front of the television the entire day. So to me, I remember kind of starting the concert, probably missing some of sort of the middle, kind of missing some of maybe the beginning of Philadelphia, and then picking it back up at the end. So I wasn't able to watch it in its entirety. So that's why it's so great that they've been able to release all of this and that it's still available to watch.
So I had to look up how we watched it because it'd been a while. So I do remember we got up really early. So we actually got up right at 6 to catch the opening. It was playing on WFLD TV channel 32. So they presented the first 11 hours of Live Aid. I had to count that because at one point I think they cut the broadcast around 4 or 5 in the afternoon, which was really disappointing because I'm like, I wanted to keep watching it. But yeah, so we caught the very beginning of it. And, it was just like, I think the thing that kind of threw me off watching it was
Mhm.
just the look of the sky at Wembley. And it's
Yes.
because I was really
Yeah.
young at the time. I was 10 and I didn't understand time changes. I knew there was some
Right.
slight changes. So at one point, I think during the concert, it was starting to get dark, and I was looking out my window. I'm like, It's light out here. What's going on?" But
Yeah, I
yeah,
didn't have that as much with the Wembley show because um I would so there was another huge event that took place in 81 is Princess Diana got married.
mm,
And my mom specifically woke me up to watch that with her. So had sort of already had this mindset of like getting up early to watch something from England.
yeah,
So was kind of used to the time change, but I found out something today. I actually was doing some little bit of research before we were going to meet, and the Philadelphia Inquirer ran an article just on May 4th of this year. Do you know how it got to Philadelphia? Like how Philadelphia became the
no,
site? So originally, and they interviewed Bob Geldof about this. So Bill Graham wanted to have it on the West Coast, and Bob Geldof did not get along with Bill Graham.
nobody
And he
did.
actually, Bob Geldof was considering Shea Stadium.
Mm,
And there's a promoter from Philadelphia, Larry, it's either Majid, it's Magid, Magid. Um,
Magritte or something. Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
He was the
So
guy.
he was the promoter in Philadelphia, and he talked to Bob Geldof, and he's like, it's the city of brotherly love.
Mm.
And Bob Geldof was like, oh, I get that connection. The other thing that I had never heard about, have you ever heard about the Move bombing?
Yes, which happened that year.
It's
Like,
May 13th, 1985.
yeah,
So I had never even heard about that, but the Move group, if you don't know, is a Black liberation group, and the Philadelphia police dropped a bomb on what they considered sort of their home and ended up killing adults and children and
yeah.
damaging a lot of buildings.
The mayor had ordered a bomb dropped on this house, and it went up in flames, and it went up the street, down the street, burn out the whole area. There were several people killed. This was a horrific thing.
The city of Philadelphia erupted into warfare this week. At week's end, at least 11 people were dead, a neighborhood had been destroyed, and the way a city looks at itself had been changed, perhaps forever.
I lived in that neighborhood, played in that neighborhood, and the closeness wasn't lost on me.
And so Live Aid, because of that, got to use JFK for free because Philadelphia wanted good press.
Interesting.
And I just thought that was fascinating. So Bob Geldof really, to this day in May, to this year in May, says this could not have happened without Philadelphia's support. And I think also just if you think about the logistics of putting on this event, like he trusted this Philadelphia promoter so much that he only visited Philadelphia one time before the actual concert. He was concerned about all the stuff going on at Wembley. And I just think the amount of like trust that he had.
I said, the only place that we could do this at is Philadelphia. And Bob asked me why, and I said, well, this is the city, the cradle of liberty. This is where we had the Independence Hall, we had the Liberty Bell, and if you aren't going to take the country back, this is the place to do it. It was just. It was a just cause. It was a brilliant idea, as I mentioned before, not that necessarily for the cause, but to raise social consciousness, which then again Live Aid did as well. It was about social consciousness. Do good, be good, think good, good things can happen. We need it more than ever in the world at these crazy times.
But you had asked like what I sort of consider, to me, Live Aid will always be Wembley. I think because Wembley is so and I think this word gets overused, but iconic to me.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was a New Romantics fan. I like that kind of music. That's where the groups played. You know, I wrote down concert sites. So Wembley, Red Rocks, Budokan, like these are just words that you say that you're like, oh man, you know, I'm getting chills thinking about would I be able to go to a show there? So
Question earlier about artists that I was looking forward to.
yes.
Definitely Bowie, because I had
Okay.
become a Bowie fan at that point. Queen,
All right. I'm gonna look
The
what they
Who.
played.
Yeah, it was
Okay.
definitely, and then of course Duran Duran. But the one thing that came up, and I was trying to find some more info, but do you remember there was a rumor floating around that the Beatles might get back together, or at least the Threedles?
I didn't see when I was just sort of poking around today. I didn't see that. I saw some reference to Bruce Springsteen possibly being in Philadelphia, which didn't happen.
Right.
That was incorrect. But no, I didn't see about. I'm sure you know. Yeah, I could see that being a rumor, especially Wembley. You're thinking it's like right there.
Right in their
Yeah.
doorsteps. And then of
Yeah.
course, Paul McCartney was scheduled to perform, which was like a really big deal too. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, it was floating around even up until the finale at Wembley, where they were
Wow.
saying that Julian Lennon might join Paul McCartney and George Harrison and
Uh-huh.
Ringo. And I looked into, because physically they could have been there, but I think they were going through some legal stuff.
Paul McCartney heading up an all-star jam with the Beatles' Let It Be. As for the Beatles reunion with perhaps Julian Lennon joining in, at this point in time, that's just a big fat rumor. So we'll stay on top of it.
And where was George Michael? Because George Michael is on Do They Know It's Christmas? But then he's not on the lineup for the concert.
So Wham had been advertised to perform.
Okay.
And then I guess something, and that's another thing about Wembley, that like how the lineup kind of got shifted around. And if you look at the original poster, there's like a number of artists that didn't make it or didn't play.
Yeah.
But yeah, Wham was originally scheduled for Wembley, and then probably got cut due to time. Same thing with Adam Ant, which I had to look him up
Yeah.
because he was supposedly promised more time, but they only gave him one song.
Yeah, they gave him one song. Like you get
And
one.
and of course he didn't pick one of the hits. He picked a new single, which probably didn't understand the assignment that day. But
Yeah.
I'm going ahead on there. But
Right.
Look, Ma, I'm on top of the world.
and most famously, there's that documentary on Wham that was on Netflix.
Okay.
And I'm remembering the George Michael's partner in Wham, Andrew, was it
Ridgely. Yeah.
Andrew Ridgely. So Elton John's performing and he calls up George Michael to come up. And then of course Andrew Ridgely is right behind and then he's like, "Oh, and Andrew Ridgely." And it's but of course that's like the beginning of the end. As far as the artist I was really impressed with, yeah, I really like the Style Council.
Mhm.
And I just recently got to see the whole set that they did, like all three songs.
It's so fast. They're
Yeah.
like, we just want to get this over with. We're the opening band. I think the band that has aged well for me are the Boomtown Rats. I think I didn't understand them as much when I was watching them for the first time or kind of seeing their music, but now I get it. They're a bar band. They have this history, and I think it's I've really their performance has really aged well for me.
And I was impressed with them. Yeah. And
Yeah.
actually, because I had never really, so I knew Bob Geldof via Pink Floyd The Wall.
Right, exactly.
So I was,
then
so I already said, like, oh, I know that guy. That's
Mhm.
the really scary guy in that movie.
Yeah.
So, and I mean, just seeing how he commanded the audience and everything. And however you feel about Bob Geldof, for sure. He was great. They were great that day.
I just think so when you were saying I think I've answered the question. Like, I prefer the UK. That was more kind of the music I was listening to at the time.
Yeah.
But like the group of artists that understood the assignment. Well, also was looking forward to Phil Collins, who I also think understood the assignment when he's like, I will play in both places. I mean, that's just crazy. Like the Concorde doesn't even exist anymore, although I heard rumors that they might try to bring it back. But that to me is like the 80s in a nutshell, that you can fly between these two countries that quick, that you can play a gig in both places for this concert. I just think it's incredible.
Event. And now I hope we're going to be able to hear from Phil Collins and Steve Blacknell somewhere way up in the sky over the Atlantic in Concorde.
You may start your piece. Stephen, go ahead. Would you like to contribute your piece and talk to Phil Collins, please?
Basically, I guess the reason we're doing this is because it can be done, you know, and everything's there, so you find it. This is it, so we're doing this. The thing is, Phil, what more can you do after this? I mean, here we are, I mean, you're in the Guinness Book of Records, you're going to do it at all. What can you do after this? I'm not quite sure. I'm going to go home, I think, and have a bit of rest. No, it's good fun, isn't it? I mean, do the London one during the day and then the American one at night. It'd be good fun.
But I think that, like we were having this discussion with Pete today when we were out running. I think every artist who was there understood the assignment to show up and support this cause.
Yeah.
I don't think I can think of another issue that exists like feeding the hungry in Africa, because it transcended, oh, it's a US issue, or oh, it's a European issue, or political, or like highly political. Like we were talking about, you know, things going on today. Like if you had a benefit for something today, it would be one side versus the other, or it's just something that everyone could kind of come behind. And it's a fun concert, like the Live Aid the whole day, UK, US, it's fun, right? But it's for really something that he was very moved by. And so I think that the people who answered that and who came out, you know, who didn't understand it, Tears for Fears, I think they always kind of get dinged for passing it up.
Well, they were tired. They were just wrapping up their tour.
Yeah, they were wrapping up their tour, and
then
maybe didn't understand what a big day this was going to be for him. But I just think, like, I mean, you've seen it, the documentary about Live Aid, and just he was like, oh, we need trucks. We'll get trucks. We need this. We'll do this. Like he just blew through any kind of, there were no excuses. And so I think that the people who came out to perform, I mean, they definitely, because I can't think of anything else. Like even Farm Aid, that's a US issue, or
as far as the artist that I feel like didn't understand the assignment, or kind of went on a completely different, and this is it could be controversial. I did put on Adam Ant.
Okay.
Only because he ended up playing his new single, and the poor guy was flailing around.
I love that song though, because I'm a fan, and I wonder if he picked that song because then he's like, well, if I play, you know, Goody Two Shoes, then I have to play, you know, Prince Charming, or, you know, everyone's going to want to hear something. But I get what you mean. Like, you know, even Elvis Costello, if you look, he only had one song, and Howard Jones had one song. So yes, maybe they had some people that they had to sort of hurry along.
The other person Dylan, which I just watched his set yesterday. And
how was
part
that?
of this?
Is that
Hilarious. So I have to watch the full set, but he did. Blowing in the Wind was the set that end. So and that came right after the big Mick Jagger, Tina Turner.
Yeah, Tina Turner. Yep.
Where they sucked up all the energy, and then you know, you got Dylan with two members of the Stones there, and that was interesting too. Like, why didn't the Rolling Stones play?
Right. Exactly.
Why didn't a number? But switching songs kind of at the last minute, and just seeing like Dylan just acting weird.
You know what? I just, like I said, I hope that some of the money that's raised for all the people in Africa. Maybe they could just take a little bit of it, maybe 1 or 2 million, maybe, and use it, say, to pay the mortgages on some of the farms and that the farmers here owe to the banks.
If you look back at the set list, I think like the Who definitely understood the assignment. I mean, those are huge songs. Those are huge stadium songs.
Yeah.
Elton John.
Yeah.
You know, Queen, whether you like these bands or, I mean, Dire Straits to come out and do Money for Nothing and Sultans of Swing. Yeah, they're like, we got 2. This is it. This is what we're gonna do.
Yeah.
I think it would be really interesting to be a fly on the wall, like backstage at this event and just see, you know, the logistics of it and who was making. I like that we always sort of laugh at home that Boomtown Rats went, what, 3rd or 4th? Like 3rd main band after the Royal Salute, because they were just like, we're just going to hang out. Bob Geldof obviously had other things to do.
Yeah.
You know, he had to make sure that the show was going on. So.
Well, and you know the story about the Ultravox and Boomtown Rats getting switched.
Oh, really? So they were okay.
So originally it was going to be Ultravox and then Boomtown Rats, but then Prince Charles and Princess Diane were leaving early, and that's, you know, you mentioned like Princess Diane's wedding and everything, because she was definitely a fan. I mean, she was definitely there to hang out with all the Brit stars, and I'm pretty sure she would have stayed all night and partied.
Yeah.
But, you know, Prince Charles
he didn't want to leave. He's like, let's go. Yeah.
So so there was a switch that happened. I mean, and I think it's on the Against All Odds documentary.
Ultravox should have played earlier at 12:47, but after a last-minute change to the running order, they were swapped with the Boomtown Rats. This meant that by the time Midge and his boys came on, the royal party had left.
As I walked backstage, all the paparazzi were there, and they said, well, how do you feel being shafted by Bob? And I said, what do you mean? He said, well, you were swapped round with the Boomtown Rats so that he could perform for the Royals. I said, nah. Yeah.
The Prince and Princess of Wales had agreed to stay for a couple of hours, and so there was a bit of jockeying for position, and it was felt that it was right for Bob to, if he was going to perform within that period in front of them.
Someone who was organising the technical side of things came up to me and said, oh, there's a problem, Adamant's equipment, do you mind if the Rats go on before you? I said, no, don't care, doesn't matter.
It was then quite obvious that, you know, those 4 bands were playing in front of the royal family. Midge was very keen on the royal family, was keen to play in front of them, but it was decided it wasn't to be, and he was very, very upset about it. But there you go, you know. Yeah, it's just the way it is, isn't it?
It actually wasn't my decision. Probably Bob's decision, really, to decide that he wanted to be on at that point.
Oh, bastard. It probably was Bob, yeah. Well, I thought I've given him the benefit of the doubt and said, well, you know, I'm sure he knows nothing about it, and it was just a swap round.
I didn't even know we'd been swapped, you know, on the day. I certainly wouldn't have requested that. I couldn't give a toss, just so long as we were on, you know. I insisted upon that. That's for bloody sure, you know.
I listened to the whole set. There's still a few tracks that I kind of find cheesy, but Vienna, that was probably the best.
I think any of these, like, if you just start singing them to yourselves, they are an earworm, and you will have them in your head for the rest of the day. I mean, Reap the Wild Wind, Dancing with Tears in My Eyes, One Small Day, Vienna. Yeah, it's just.
Yeah. That was the first time I'd ever seen U2.
Okay.
And I'm definitely not a fan. I'm definitely the kind of guy. So my thought about U2 is, you know, New Year's Day and Sunday Bloody Sunday are like, for me, like the peak. Maybe Pride in the Name of Love. But
yeah. What I think is funny about U2 is I remember when they first came out and MTV, and it was like the band that makes no secret of their religious upbringing. And I'm
Yes.
like, what is it? And then they kind of dropped it. And, again, being in the United States, this is like, I don't understand the troubles. I don't understand what some of these things are. So I think there were maybe some things throughout some musicians' careers that they kind of watered down. But I do remember, because I'd be like, I don't know what's up with them. And so
Yeah.
it's amazing though, Angel, if you look at this list, like the amount of people who are still around.
That was blowing me away too, thinking like that, this concert happened 40 years ago. Now, where's everybody 40 years later?
Right.
Like Joan Baez is still alive. Paul McCartney's still kicking. Elton John's still alive. I mean, a lot of them. And the thing that I was really, just from watching it, it's like, this is probably the last big hurrah for a lot of these people. Because that was the other thing, like, in a way, Live Aid musically kind of represents the changing of the guards, so if you will, and kind of a last hurrah for a lot of these 80s groups, because
Yeah, I could see that. I mean, it is at that point, it is what, 85.
Yeah.
So
so between 81, I would say 81, 84 is like kind of peak year for like, especially the UK pop scene. That's where a lot, people are still young looking and they're not quite ravaged by excessive partying.
Well, I saw Adamant twice in high school, and so the first time In Excess actually opened up.
Oh,
and that
who
was
also
supporting...
played. They also played the Oz for Africa, which was
yeah. They opened up the first time, and then the Romantics the second time. So you can kind of see like things may have shifted. But yeah, I think it again. I think this event is so important because of maybe some of the innocence, like just the nothing's going to stop us. Like Bob Geldof was like, nothing's going to stop us. We're going to get Wembley. We're going to get JFK. We're going to get all these bands. We're going to have 2 days. And I read, not recently, but a while ago, just the way that they filmed it. Like I guess the camera crew and stuff had come off the most recent Olympics, and they were really using a lot of like multiple cameras.
Yes.
And just the fact that we're able to have this footage is incredible.
Yeah. And that's something that I, when I talk to people who weren't around and, we're like, what? So yeah, I guess the real question is why Live Aid? Why is it such a big deal? Why have you and I for over, since we've known each other? Like actually, can I ask you, our first memories of us meeting each other?
Was probably around Live Aid.
Probably, yeah.
Or like music, like listening to music or something, or like, hey, my neighbor's playing music. They seem like they're cool.
Okay.
So I think for me, the reason that I like it is just it represents a time where things were, I was at a different age, much younger. I wasn't so affected by the cynicism. I think that happens now where, oh, what are they trying to get away with? What's the,
what's the angle?
What's the angle? Like if you look at the banner at Wembley, it just says Live Aid 1980. There's no Budweiser. There's no, social influencer. There's not like, there's the families backstage. And so for me, it's like, you can't say anything wrong about this event. I do understand that there were some challenges afterwards with getting aid to people and stuff like that. But the fact that they tried in the first place, like they didn't let anything stop them. I think that's why it resonates with me. The music's great. It's a fun day.
So I'm trying to channel my 10-year-old self and thinking about all this. So 1985, I mean, I was definitely a very anxious kid. Mm-hmm. And, this is the period when we were constantly, under the threat of getting bombed, and it was like constant like news about nuclear attack, the day after it come out. And I understood like what the, as far as like, the famine in Africa and what, and of course, and it also touches on other places around the world too. And I understood that because I grew up going to Catholic school. Mm-hmm. And I think we did a food drive. I know I definitely brought my copy of Do They Know It's Christmas Time and We Are the World to class so we can live. So, and so that kind of gave me a little bit of an understanding. But yeah, like I think I was blown away by, we were kind of witnessing the birth of, like transatlantic, you know, broadcasting all across.
Right.
I mean,
Well, I think also philanthropy too, right?
yeah,
Because I had a little bit different situation where I was in a more stable, um, not a care in the world kind of thing, living in a place that was, doing very well. My family was doing very well. And then to hear, but then Reagan came along, that all changed, but then whatever. But to hear about a place in the world where people were so impoverished that it opened your eyes to, like you were saying, just even time changes or different countries or different
yeah.
experiences. And so I think they did it in a really, I don't know. I just don't think anything like this could happen again. I think that it's in this way.
Anytime I watch Live Aid, certain performances, I start to get
Yeah.
teary-eyed. Is there any performances that like start to kind of hit you?
Don't get teary-eyed about the performances. I got a little teary-eyed today reading some of the very recent news stories to celebrate the 40th anniversary, and the promoter from Philadelphia just talking about Bob Geldof's vision and how he brought everybody together and really gave them the power and the drive to get this done. And
Yeah.
I just think to see, you know, somebody galvanize these people. Because you see you see the Do They Know It's Christmas video, and you see all that, they're hungover, they're coming into the studio. This is a whole different animal. Like, this is completely different. I'm just fascinated by the ability to pull it off.
Right, with I think it was about 4 months of,
Mhm.
and the other thing I learned about Wembley was the stage they used was, I guess, Bruce Springsteen's stage,
Oh, okay.
or at least some of it. So they were
Mhm.
able to, at least they already had that up because he had
Well,
played the week before, which, and that was the other thing. There was rumors that Bruce
that he was
Springsteen
going to
was going
stick
to,
around. Yeah. He's
and
like, I've already left town.
yeah,
So they published in Philadelphia the cost of some of the stuff. So the t-shirts were $10, the
Hmm.
sweatshirts were $22, and the programs were $10. So in today, I did the inflation calculator. So the t-shirts would have been $29.98, and the sweatshirts would have been $65.95.
Hmm.
That's, again, they're not gouging. Like, okay, I'm not going to say that's not inexpensive, but that's like, I don't think that's gouging people.
Right.
How much does band merch now cost now?
I'm not trying to be like one of those old fogies who's like,
Right.
like,
Nothing can happen like that anymore.
but I think what Live Aid had versus now is like, because you're tapping into a lot of musical history over the last 30 plus years, up
Right.
until, like, we've talked about how the UK versus US was better. I'm starting to kind of, I don't know, necessarily change my view about Philadelphia, but Philadelphia is probably one of the most fascinating of the two
It definitely
because,
has a lot of local representation, and that could be due to the promoter. So I think what I need to do is I need to just start with Philadelphia one time instead of always starting with the UK, and then
yeah.
kind of giving up by the time I get to some of the stuff, because there definitely are bands that I really like.
A number of artists that did not make the cut of the DVD or have been erased by history. Let's see. Well, there's the Zeppelin reunion, which
Okay.
and then of course the opening track that Duran Duran did. But
Okay. Yeah, they picked some odd ones.
yeah, but Santana set that day in Philadelphia, really good.
Is it?
And
Okay.
yeah,
I'll
like
check that
it's,
out.
and the thing is, they didn't do the, I wouldn't say they didn't get the assignment, but they didn't present any of the hits.
No more politics or denomination. Brotherhood. No more lust or greed. Peace and light. openness, tranquility, serenity, dignity, harmony, perfection, harmony, perfection, harmony, perfection, harmony, perfection. One mind, one truth, one life.
I know, like, I think, again, Duran Duran was kind of doing what was out at that time. I mean, I wouldn't consider, like, Union of the Snake. I did watch that set. That's kind of a weird song for a stadium show. It just seemed a little odd, but yeah.
Yeah, the last two, Saber Prayer and the Reflex, perfect songs to
do, like, a big stadium. I think it's just interesting, though, to think back to, I know that MTV did have some agreements with local stations. That's how you could watch some of it, and some of it was simulcast with local stations. But again, I don't think this event would have happened without them. And I was saying today, I'm like, I'm so mad at them. It's like a boyfriend that did me wrong. And Pete's like, well, you know, things changed and they found out they can make money doing other things. And I'm like, I know, but it was like, for, you know, a number of years there, that was like, you could just turn it on at any time. And that's how you consumed music. It's just very, I don't know. It's interesting to be alive long enough to see things kind of start and end.
So I finally watched the Hooters.
Okay.
Set, which that was also good too. And I've forgotten the song that that their hit, which also I just saw something online. So I guess Quantum Leap, remember that show?
Yes, I do remember that show. Yes.
And they just did a reboot, or there's a reboot of that show.
Okay.
And of course, you know, it's a time traveler.
Yeah.
The first episode, this guy travels back to 1985 Philadelphia at Live Aid.
Does he really? Oh my God, I will have to check that out.
A sci-fi hit from the 90s is back on NBC. Quantum Leap originally followed Sam Beckett, a scientist trapped in time who had to leap from body to body. The reboot makes a leap of its own 30 years later and follows Dr. Ben Song, played by Raymond Lee.
In the first episode of NBC's new Quantum Leap series, Dr. Ben Song jumps through time and space to end up in Philly during the show. You're a time traveler.
Because that would be amazing. I would time travel back to that day if I could be at either one of those shows. I think that would be pretty awesome. Well, I guess the promoter is the Philadelphia promoter is the one who got them on the bill. I just saw something briefly where Bob Geldof was like, "Who are these guys?" So
so he had a problem with who the fuck are the Hootis? Same with Santana. There's in the BBC doc where Billy Connolly's talking about how Bob Geldof was just like yelling at somebody over the phone, and he's like, "Hey, everything okay, Bob?" He's like, "Oh, it's just the manager." The fucking manager of Santana.
When we got there, I saw him. He was on a phone next to one of those huge trailers, and he was saying, "Fuck off! No, stick it up your ass." And I thought, "Oh God, I wonder if it's the right time to say hello." So I wandered up and I said, "Hi, Bob." He went, "Oh, good, you're here. Hello, Pam. How you doing?" "Oh, good, I'm glad you're here, blah, 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 and it's going great, and tra-la-la." And I said, "Somebody on your back there." He said, "Ah!" He says, "Somebody wanted to put Santana on next." He said, "They're fucking crap." I said, "This guy from the Boomtown Rats is telling me that Santana are crap. I think not."
I mean, just consider it too. It's like they didn't have email. They were talking on the phone. They were trying to do all this with different time zones. I mean,
I mean, it's bonkers how
it is bonkers. But I do think that, you know, MTV playing such a big part of that, of the coverage and the, you know, hosting it and just making it so that we knew all those artists too, because a lot of the artists on the bill are ones who kind of owe their careers to MTV.
Yeah. And of course, a lot of those artists that played that weekend, even though they didn't get paid for their services, got big boosts in their album sales back when.
Oh gosh, I can imagine.
You know,
I can imagine.
Yeah, the other thing about Philadelphia too is like I think it definitely had the most eclectic artists.
Yeah.
The UK was great, and it has this very European sense. And I was
Yeah.
recently chatting with somebody on my friend's YouTube page who's they're gonna do a Live Aid video at some point,
Okay.
and it was somebody from England. So, this person was trying to argue with me about like, well, the British had a better, and I'm like, I agree. Like, I agree. In fact, like, I think the UK coverage of it was much more thorough and
Mhm.
also very honest because I think they were the ones that did that news report that ended up starting Band-Aid and everything about what was going on in
Mhm.
Ethiopia. So
Yes. Yeah.
so I always, yeah, like I always felt like the UK, the way they handled covering Live Aid was a lot more thorough versus the US, which was more like, oh, this is a show
Right. It's
and
a party. It like just
yeah,
happens to be raising money
yeah.
for this event. So yeah, no,
And
I
you
think
and
it I think I
yeah.
think it makes a difference. But it's just I think it's a once in a lifetime, just really cool event. I can't believe it was 40 years.
Do you get that same feeling when you watch a lot of this stuff? Like a lot of, from back then, or because I felt like I was watching everything completely different this time around. As a 50-year-old man.
I don't know. I think I enjoy some of the bands differently. Like I don't think I liked Roxy music as a 16-year-old, but I like Roxy music more now.
Yeah.
Um I think that yeah, I think I have some different musical tastes maybe that I like a little bit more. But it just again, it's a fun show. I'm also looking at some of the people that were the announcers and stuff. I think that would be
Which that kind of got
funny.
erased. It kind of got
Yeah,
erased a little bit by history. So yeah, like in Wembley, there was a few presenters, but in
like Chevy
Philadelphia,
Chase. I can't even imagine the amount of craziness that had to be going on. Um, Chevy, Joe Piscopo, you know,
Don
it's like Don
Johnson,
Johnson. Yeah, I mean, this was the place
Jack
to be
Nicholson,
for sure.
yeah,
So,
and then of course
yeah,
the Hard Rock, the pop-up Hard Rock Cafe
that was
backstage was
great. That was awesome to see again, just how they were going to feed people and yeah. I mean, by the end of the day, I think Jack Nicholson and Bette Midler introducing Phil Collins, they had to be pretty loose by then, I would imagine. If they
right,
were
right, yeah,
they've been waiting around all day for that set. So,
yeah.
but no, yeah, good memories. It's funny to think about. Like I said, how I would not. I just would be like, "Do you have cable?" Because that's the only way that I'm babysitting for you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
actually, the set that I was really there was a number of sets I was surprised watching, but the Black Sabbath set.
they just have their last show recently.
Yeah,
So
so a
yeah,
couple of weeks. So
again,
we had
40 years.
a couple years or a couple of weeks ago we had the Black Sabbath reunion farewell show.
Right.
Oasis had gotten back together,
Yeah.
which they're doing, which I've been really fascinated with Oasis as well. So and then of course we got Live Aid, but yeah, the Four Top set, I was really watching that one was great. The Black Sabbath set is actually pretty good, although Bill Ward, their drummer, wasn't looking too great, and he's kind of struggling. I mean, that was the thing. A lot of these groups like barely had time to get together, like Zeppelin.
Right. Yeah, it was a quick thing. So I think it's a good way to pay tribute to the show for sure. So
I appreciate you not getting scared of me when we would talk about Live Aid, because yeah, like I said, I could talk about Live Aid to anyone, and
no,
and one of
I think I'm gonna definitely I definitely have to go back and watch. I think what I'm gonna do is just start with the US one and just and see that because there are a couple sets that I have not seen in a long time. I mean, like I love George Thorogood when he was on MTV. I just think his videos are hysterical. So I'd like
yeah,
to see that set.
40 years later, seeing all this news again about Live Aid. I mean, what do you feel is like the big takeaway of it all? Like, obviously, you know, for a lot of us, it was a great day of music and kind of feeling like, you know, we're not this huge. world as it is now, it's actually kind of small. I mean, what were your final like after it was all said and done, when it was time to call it a night, what were you doing? What were you feeling?
I think that for me, what strikes me about it is that I don't think people today who have a lot of money have a lot of connection to other people's plights. I know that's kind of simplistic to say, but like, Bob Geldof didn't have to do this. He wanted to do it. I think that I've seen something with Paul Weller, like at the end of some of his things where he's like part of this 1%, where he like donates 1% of his earnings every year to, some fund or something. I just don't think I'm not saying people have to do that where you see it. It doesn't have to be so performative, but you're not really, the imbalance between the have and have nots has just gotten bigger since 1985. And I don't know that anyone, who's going to come forward to do that. But is the challenge that there's not kind of, like I said, sort of, I don't want to say that this was like, I just think it was an easier to understand issue. It wasn't, it was very, very clear to people what the end goal was.
Yeah. Definitely.
Maybe that's the challenge now, is that you want to rally people behind something, but it gets so messy at some point.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I can't imagine like even watching it over the weekend, just like, could this even be possible?
Right.
I mean, it is, I mean, people, there's festivals that happen. I mean, it's constantly, but as far as like where everyone is on board,
you don't hear anything like no one got hurt. Or I haven't seen any of that. I mean, there was some coverage around people in Philadelphia a little upset because people were like leaving litter in their yard, but they live near JFK Stadium. They were used to that. It wasn't a big deal.
I mean, there was a lot of arrests in Philadelphia, mostly like drug stuff, and just I've actually seen footage of people like getting of police like being physical with patrons. So
yeah, but I mean, do you think, I don't think anyone's going to take up the mantle to kind of replicate this sort of event.
No, I mean, Bob Geldof is too old now at this point.
Yeah.
to even challenge it. Yeah, I mean, who knows? I mean,
yeah, things to think about.
Yeah.
More things change.
Yeah. If there's anything you want to ask me about Live Aid, like I said, I'm
We'll save that for the 50th anniversary.
Yeah. If we make
we'll make it.
Yeah.
Bob Geldof now is what, 73? So we'll see if he makes it to the 50th, but
oh dear, yeah.
Yeah, I think
but it's been really great chatting with you.
Yeah,
and also,
same.
Texting back and forth about, because I'm like I said, I just having watched all 10 hours of it. I mean,
yeah, now you're in it.
Yeah,
I like that they brought, I do like the way that the Live Aid group on YouTube is bringing it out in chunks, because I think it's really digestible, and, maybe more people will rediscover it, and maybe they'll, or discover it. Because I think, isn't that a potential too, that, maybe it's something that people will get into and start to appreciate just the immensity of what happened that day. So I would recommend read about Phil Collins getting on the plane, and he does make some self-depreciating comments in his memoir that he's like, I was everywhere. I was sick of myself.
Well, I know he got a little bit of people were slightly annoyed that he did that, but it did and that was one of many events.
You couldn't do that today, right? Because people would be like, the environment, it's a way. So but at that time it was like, no, I'm going to do this. I don't remember why he had to do it, but it just was so cool to think that someone was going to be in both places. So.
And it was, it brought more attention. I think that was ultimately the goal, was to try to bring as much attention.
That was the gimmick. Maybe that was the one gimmick they had, was we're going to hook people with this. So, and that's why he did it. But all right, well, I should get back to work, and then listen to some Philadelphia Live Aid
Yes.
later today.
Same here. Thanks for
Cool.
joining me, Sarah.
Oh
And,
yeah, no, thank you so much. This was really fun.
yeah. And we gotta hang out soon. I know
Oh
it's
yeah.
it's been a minute, so
All right, cool.
awesome.
All right, well,
you
have a good rest of your day.
You too. I'll talk to you. Keeping with the theme of the 39th anniversary of Live Aid, I'd like to present a tribute to one of the acts who performed there. Sing it if you know it. It was something by Spandau Ballet. Not that one. Yeah, I practiced this. Come on. How many hearts must you break? How many calls must I make? But now you're leaving in this world. All that I choose has come unbearable. The love is in your touch. Oh, it's killing me so much. Only when you leave, I need to love you. And when the action has all gone, I'm just a little fool enough to need you, but fool enough to long. Here we go. I'll make sure that you pay, so give a little passion to a stranger, and take this away. Hey! That's how this the last part there about that. You get the gist. I can share the game. I only want to make things last. So how can this have gone so fast? And now you're leaving. How many times must I learn? It's only when you're gone that I burn. And now you're leaving. In the end, all that is left has come unbearable. It's hard to change your mind, so leave it all behind. And only when you leave, I need to love you. And when the action has all gone, I'm just a little fool enough to need you, but fool enough to long. And only when you leave, you'll be in danger. Make sure that you pay, so give a little passion to a stranger, and take this away. It's almost like Wembley Arena. Where were you? July 15th, 1985, Wembley Stadium, Live Aid. Yeah, check out the set. Come on, everyone. And in the afterglow, I only want to learn what you know. But now you're leaving. How many hearts must you break? How many calls must I make? But now you're leaving. In this world, all that I choose has come unbearable. But love's in your touch. Oh, it's killing me so much. And only when you leave, I need to love you. And when the action has all gone, I'm just a little fool enough to need you, and fool enough to love. And only when you leave, you'll be in danger. Oh, I'll make sure that you pay, so give
you're in legal danger, or I'll make sure that you fucking pay. So give a little passion to a stranger. Thank you.